All right. Hey, Rick, confirm everything is good to go on YouTube. Hold on. All right. Looks like we're good to go. Hey, guys, good morning. Let me introduce myself and welcome to the Search and Seizure Show. We did this last week. We're doing it this week. One thing we are going to try to do is find a better time for these. I know the weekends can be tough for a lot, for a lot of you folks. It's good for me, but I know that working out, banker's hours is pretty good is better for most cops. So if you are going to give feedback about a case that I'm going to talk about, you have something else to add, or you want to say, hey, in my state, we don't do it that way, we do it this way, please put it into the chat and set it up to all or to select everyone. If you do not select everyone and it just says like hosts and panelists, just so you know, nobody can see it except me, and that's we want everybody to see your chats and so forth. If you are going to ask a question, you have to use a microphone. That's the rule I've kind of laid down for these search and seizure shows. So if you want to ask a brand new, if you want to add something, some context to something I'm talking about, that's fine. You don't need a mic for that, right? But if you want to ask a brand new search and seizure hypothetical, I need a microphone on that so that we can get the right context and I can ask questions. We can flush out the details. All right. If you don't want to use your microphone, no problem. I'm going to show you how to submit your questions online, and I'll do it at another time. All right. My name is Anthony Bandiero. I'm an attorney and senior legal instructor for Blue to Gold Law Enforcement Training. I like to say this is what I do for a living. I have the honor and the privilege to train cops all around the nation in search and seizure. I do have a dream job, and I appreciate everybody's support. And I love these questions coming in. It makes me think. Hopefully, it's going to make you guys think and so forth. What's up, Tom? If you do want to share where you're from in the chat, that'd be great. All right. So quickly, my background is law enforcement. I started as a trooper in 2005, spent most of my career in Las Vegas. Most of my career as a sergeant. I then retired early, went to law school, went to Gonzaga School of Law. That brought me to Spokane, Washington. That's where Gonzaga is. And that's where I'm broadcasting from today. Last week, I was in New Jersey. Next week on Monday, I fly out to Las Vegas. Any of my Las Vegas peeps here, give a shout out. So glad you guys are here. This is what I do. I've also put all my classes on demand. Pretty much everything that I do is at a click of a button. You can access what I do. What's up, Eduardo? And if you like what I'm doing, if you want more of our training, please visit the university at university.bluetogold.com. Also, there's going to be a free course that you can get there as well. I'll talk about that. The bookstore. So I've written about, how many we up to, Rick? I forget, right? Maybe 16, 17 books. It's not that many, but I lose count a little bit. About 15 or so. So I've written several state-specific search and seizure books: California, New Jersey, Washington, and so forth. And I have a national version, which is obviously applicable to everybody, right? Everybody. I also have some report writing books. And those are to get cops to articulate more. If you want a free class on demand and you want to kind of see what we're doing for on-demand folks, go to university.bluetogold.com and you'll see a link for a free class. The warrantless home entries is probably our most popular class because it actually has our famous curtilage color codes. And so you'll see what I'm talking about there. Disclaimers. Laws and agencies, thank you. And laws and agency SOPs may be more restrictive, standard operating procedures. What I'm going to talk to you about, and I'm going to give you advice on today, is what I think the law is looking for, either in that state or just in general. Hey, if I were you, I would do this, and I don't think that violates the Fourth Amendment. But just realize, even though I try to remain competent and knowledgeable about all 50 states, and I try to think about state laws, and I try to think about best practices and so forth, just realize that I'm human too, right? So if you have something else that you can think of, oh, hey, Anthony, did you actually consider this law or this? Let me know so that we can educate each other. All right, it's not a one-way street around here. If you have any doubts about the legality of your actions, push up the chain. And finally, this course is legal education, not legal advice. Everybody will get a certificate. It'll say the Search and Seizure Show, not Terry Stops and Pat Downs. And so for the people who joined on the webinar. All right, so again, I'm just going to kind of repeat the way we work here. This show is, this is a brand new. We did it last year for a few times, and then of course we got busy. But this is something that I do want to kind of continue doing. But I'm going to be kind of strict on this this requirement that if you want to ask a new hypothetical, I want you to use your microphone. Other people enjoy it. I like it. It's almost like a radio show. But also remember that they cannot hear you. I'm sorry, they cannot see you. We don't use cameras here, just only you can see my pretty face, but they can hear you. So I think that's great. It really adds context, and it adds a little bit more like a podcast. If you don't want to get on the mic and let your fellow bros and sisters know what you're asking, I wish you would, but if you don't, that's okay. Go to bluetogold.com/show, and I'll get around to it like I'm doing with these ones. All right? All right. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to answer 9 questions today to the best of my ability, and then leave some time at the end for any kind of open forum questions. If you have a question, just put Mike in the chat, and we'll open it up to dialogue. And actually, if you have a question sooner and you want to jump on the mic, just say Mike, and I'll activate it on my end. You'll then approve it on your end, and then people can hear you. All right? All right. Let's get started. All right, so submitted questions. Again, I have a lot of these questions. We're going to talk about 9 questions right now. The first question is can a hotel manager give officers consent to search a hotel room for non-registered guests? All right, what is going on here? So this question comes from an officer in Inglewood, California. So I recently, got my little cheat sheet here about what the context is. He says, I recently responded to a call at a hotel where the hotel manager asked me to search a hotel room for non-registered guests. The manager informed me that the registered guests inside the room had several non-registered guests, which was a violation of the hotel's policy. Prior to my arrival, the manager stated he saw a group of approximately 5 subjects leave the room. The manager asked me if he could give me a master key so I could check the room to see if there were any additional unregistered guests in the room. I knocked on the door for several times. However, did not get a response. The front window curtains were open, and I was able to look inside and did not appear to see any guests in the room. The only room I could not see was the bathroom. The manager wanted me to go inside and check to see if anybody was inside there. Can a hotel manager give me consent to search the room for non-registered guests, or would this be a violation of the registered guest right of privacy? Thank you so much. I love your content. All right. What is the answer here? Can the manager do this? Yes or no? Can the cop do this? Yes or no? Okay. Brian says he would need to evict for a violation, then you can arrest for trespass if they refuse to leave. And it looks like everybody else is in line as well. My people on YouTube, if you have something to say to this, please add that to the chat. Dennis is, hey, Dennis, do me a favor. Change your chat setting to everyone. Devin says 100% no, still a matter. And let's just get right down to business. You are allowed to do this. I'm just kidding. No way, right? No way. Did I scare you a little bit? All right. So here is, I try to find some cases that help share context here. But this is not going to be permissible. This would be a violation of the 4th Amendment. So here is an example of what I mean. This is not exactly a case exactly on par, but it's something, I like the quote I'm going to show you in a second. So a manager wanted the cops to look into a hotel room for drugs. And the hotel room was not, it was still occupied, even though the guest was not present. Okay, they were out and about doing something, and the cops went into the room to look for drugs, and the court, of course, suppressed that. 1 second, I got to change some settings here. Okay, so a landlord may tell the police about contraband he or she observed, and the police, in turn, can use that information to apply for a search warrant. But that course of events does not create an exception to the warrant requirement, stressing that the United States Supreme Court had never extended that doctrine, this doctrine about, entering home or entering hotel rooms and so forth, homes, because somebody else did, or can, to home searches. And we likewise declined to expand that doctrine in that way. So again, it's not exactly on par, but the message seems pretty clear, right? Police should not be used to enforce hotel policies. You're not a security guard. You are a police officer, and that comes with a great responsibility, including respecting people's reasonable expectation of privacy. Now, I do like how my friend Brian said he would need to evict for the violation, then he can arrest for trespass and so forth. The eviction comes from the manager, but we're not going to get in the middle. We're not security guards. If they got a problem with it, then they can evict them. I think we're all on the same page. All right. Second question. All right. And so also understand too that I'm going to be chopping up these videos and putting them on YouTube as separate videos. So just kind of remember that I may, when I explain things, I'm going to repeat things for the online YouTube people. All right. So it can be a separate video. All right. This question comes from an officer in Texas. Can I routinely pat down wanted suspects? The question, the scenario is pretty straightforward. As a matter of routine, is it possible to handcuff, pat down, and place a wanted subject into my patrol car before the warrant has been confirmed? Okay. So, what do you guys think? Yes or no? Yes. Yes. Okay. So Matt says absolutely. So here is my rule for dealing with people who have a warrant hit but are not yet, under arrest, because you don't know if the warrant's going to be confirmed or there's something else going on. And I had some people online too that say yes. All right. So I recommend using regulatory rules until the warrant is confirmed. So if the person is a fugitive and you're going to put them in the back of the car until the warrant's confirmed, I also believe that, that patting them down is appropriate. Do you have a reason to believe that they could be a danger to you and so forth? The fact that they're about to go to jail and in the back of your car, I think makes sense. One thing that I do not recommend that officers do, however, is search them completely. Can we agree on that? Can we agree that until the warrant is confirmed, that we should just treat them like they've been detained? I don't like treating them as if they've been fully arrested until I know that I can fully arrest them. That's the way I operate. Okay? All right. So there we go. So the answer there, that's number 2. All right, guys. So this cop wants to know about warrants and staleness issues. All right, so let me give you a little background. I do not know what state this officer is in. So I had a question come up the other night from involving our narcotics division. They're wanting to see if they are good to get a search warrant and wanted to pick your brain on it. We conducted a buy walk operation from a dealer's house last week. At the dealer's residence, I said that. That same day, a traffic stop was made on a vehicle leaving the dealer's residence. So this is a pretext stop. We know that pretext stops are valid in the vast majority of states, except like New Mexico and Washington State. That would be a little problematic, but we know that pretext stops are valid in the vast majority of states. So you don't need, the reason for the stop obviously is to try to get intel, but as long as you have a reason for the stop, you're going to be fine. Okay, so far so good. We intended to refresh and, just to get more PC and conduct a second buy walk operation today on the dealer's house in order to attempt to procure a search warrant. The buy walk was successful, although it was done in a parking lot away from the dealer's residence. So I think we can imagine that the dealer, for some reason or another, is like, hey, don't come to my house. I'm going to meet you somewhere else. Are we good with still getting a warrant for the residence based on these facts? Now, this is very limited facts. You know that If I give you advice on something, it's based off of the several facts and so forth. All right. Mark says, did the dealer come from and return to the house? Excellent question. Let's say the answer is yes. Okay. Let's look at some case law. All right. So here is a case from the Sixth Circuit talking about staleness issues, right? Exactly. Okay. So here is some four factors to consider when thinking about staleness. The point of the expiration of probable cause is determined by the nature of the crime and the circumstances of that case. So, for example, do we agree that somebody selling stolen property out of their house last month is a little different than somebody apparently engaged in possession of child porn last year? You know, the staleness on the child porn issue, it may not be stale for child porn because people that engage in that criminal conduct are, they usually don't get rid of the evidence, right? They keep it. Okay. Whereas the stolen property could be all sold on Craigslist by the time you show up. Rather than focusing on the timeline of the evidence, we look to four factors to measure staleness. Factor number one, the character of the crime, chance encounter in the night, or a regenerating conspiracy, right? What is the character of the crime here? This person is a drug dealer. This is their method of income, right? So is the nature of the crime here going to help us defeat the staleness issue? And the answer is yes. This is not a one-off situation. This guy is showing you, or showing the cop here, that this is a continuing criminal activity. Okay, that helps us. Number two, the criminal, nomadic or entrenched. Okay, what they're trying to say is this person giving you indications that this person is living a criminal lifestyle, right? Also talking about nomadic, like are they just going, when it comes to the house, are they just couch surfing, right? Or are they entrenched in one place? This again helps us. The first buy was at the person's home, right? That is their safe zone. Where do you think the proceeds of the crime would be held? Where do you think the implements of drug trafficking and so forth would be held? The scale, the baggies, and the residue on, stuff like that, and more drugs to sell. Where do you think it's going to be? Do you have any evidence that it's out at a storage unit or the house? And I think that we're pointing towards the house. Number three, the thing to be seized, is it perishable and easily transferable, or of an enduring utility to its holder? This kind of goes against us a little bit, because what they're trying to say here is, look, drugs are, by design, drugs are supposed to be kind of getting rid of quickly, right? There is no enduring benefits if you're a drug dealer to hold on to the contraband. Your goal is to get rid of it as soon as possible, versus the child porn suspect. They have an incentive to keep on to that because it gives that person their benefits, right, from what they see out of it. So this one hurts us. So what we like to see in these dealer cases is, how long has it been since you bought drugs from the house? And the cop says, not from the house, but just, okay, from the house and also in general from this drug dealer. We know that we purchased narcotics that same day. So I think we're going to be okay here, but it's something to think about. And finally, the place to be searched. Is it a mere criminal form of convenience or a secure operational base? Again, that goes back to what I was talking to you about. The fact that the second buy happened in a parking lot, that's a convenience. So that hurts us. But hopefully, we also know that he went back to the home or came from the home, and that shows that it's a secure operational base. In the end, Staleness is a fact-specific inquiry. As somebody said, Gabriel says it's a totality of circumstances. But, I think that we're going to be fine here. I think if I was your judge, I certainly, I certainly would, I certainly would apply for a warrant. The other thing, I have a little pro tip for you is, hey, if you're like this, if you're in doubt and you're not sure, if you have it, why don't you just let the judge decide, right? That's what the judge is supposed to do. I mean, he or she is the expert in the legal, in the law, and let them say, hey, look, I think you're close, but no cigar. I'm not going to give you a warrant. Okay, judge, I appreciate your feedback. We don't want to do judge shopping, right? If the judge says no, then, look to see if you can get some more evidence before going back to that judge. But the point is, it's okay when you have a case that you're just not positive on to let the judge make a decision. And just so you know, if you do that, and later an appeals court found that the judge was actually wrong, you're still probably going to win. The evidence will likely not be suppressed if the officer still had what's called arguable probable cause. Arguable probable cause is something where, okay, yeah, it's deficient. It was a little thin, but it was reasonable to think still that you had probable cause. Isn't that what we have here? I mean, at the end of the day, even if an appellate court from their nice, comfortable chair believes that there's not enough probable cause, are we in the realm of debate? And I think we are. And somebody's asked me on YouTube, so this is just being streamed to YouTube, but I have a Zoom webinar going on right now, and that's where most of the questions and the feedback is coming from. All right, so there's your answer for that question. All right, this question comes from an officer, again, and actually, I don't know, I for some reason I want to say Kentucky, but all right, so this question involves using drone zoom lenses. So here's the feedback, the background. I'm working through the drone module in your online training, and you speak about using zoom capabilities. From the module, you mentioned that the use of the zoom may be a search because the technology is not readily available to the public, or especially if you're looking into homes. So here's a situation that we had. Our fire department has a very nice drone. I'm sure they have a very nice Xbox as well, including an incredible zoom feature in thermal imaging. We are aware that the use of thermal imaging or the use of zoom to peer into a home would obviously be a search. The thermal imaging comes from a case, a U.S. Supreme Court case called Kylo. Okay, but what about not the zoom issue necessarily? We have to that's new case law. But what about using the lens enhancement to see something that could be seen with the naked eye from a lawful vantage point? Okay, so for example, we recently had a target with a high-level felony warrant that was on court-ordered GPS supervision from a prior case. We established who his employer was and determined he had several vehicles with active registrations. We knew that the target we knew that the target would be traveling back, to the employment area, employment facility in one of those registered vehicles, to the job site, and they would normally park in an alleyway near a dead end and driving one of the vehicles. All right, blah blah blah. So, is the use of the zoom technology to see something that would be visible without a zoom lens or to the naked eye from a publicly accessible area? Okay, so look, I get it. So this is the idea. So he's saying, hey, look, let's imagine I was physically standing in the alleyway. I could obviously see this guy pull up, but I don't want to be in the alleyway. I don't want to tip him off and have him run, shoot out, whatever. Can I just use that drone from far away to see the same thing that I could see from an alleyway? What do you guys think? What's generally, hopefully I didn't confuse this too much, but generally, what do you think? Catherine says, hey, Catherine, I haven't seen you in a while. What's up? I'm glad you're here. We're going to have a big class, by the way, in Scottsdale, Arizona pretty soon. All right. Okay. I see yes, no, yes, yes, yes. Okay. So let's go through some case law real quick. Our main case here, just is California versus Cirillo. This is a U.S. Supreme Court that talks about observations from an aircraft. Now, I know that obviously a helicopter and a drone are different, but I still think that this case is going to help us. Certainly, is going to help us give us some context here. Basically, the U.S. Supreme Court has said that if the officer is lawfully present, then the observations are lawful. That doesn't really answer the Zoom question. It just answers this navigable airspace question. So the observations were made in a physically non-intrusive manner. Any member of the public flying in this airspace who glanced down could have seen everything that these officers observed. The defendant's expectation that his garden was protected from such observation is unreasonable and is not an expectation that society is prepared to honor. Okay, so what we're talking about here is that I think that at the end of the day, deploying a drone in the same manner as the public, while abiding by all laws, would be considered plain view as something, right to be, right to see. There's also this whole idea. The reason I say that that seeing something from far away that you could have seen from close up is also going to be permitted comes from case law involving binoculars. So when cops use binoculars to see, like, let's say in a backyard or inside curtilage, we want to be careful about seeing inside windows, but even in windows, one thing that the courts will likely consider is this. All right, defendant, okay, defendant. Do you think that the cop could have seen the same thing inside your home if he or she was standing on the sidewalk in front of your house? And the defendant will probably have to admit, well, yeah, it was on the kitchen table. Okay. So just because the cop decided to go 50, 70 yards away, whatever it is, around the corner, and use binoculars to see the same thing that they could have seen from the sidewalk in front of your house does not violate your reasonable expectation of privacy. Does that make sense? That logic, right? And that is what's going on here, right? The other thing that's going on here is that, which helps the cop, is that we also may be observing an open field, right? If you're simply looking in the alleyway and seeing the cars and so forth, I actually got to tell you, I don't think there's any constitutional argument at all, because we know from a case called Dow Chemical, U.S. Supreme Court, okay? In Dow Chemical, the government used very, very sophisticated, intrusive, high zoom capability technology to look into areas that were not the home, were not curtilage, basically a business complex. And the U.S. Supreme Court said there was no search at all because there's no reasonable of privacy. So if the cops are using that fire department drone to see into open fields or non-curtilage, then I think you're going to be fine anyway. But even if you're looking into, backyards, I don't like windows, but backyards, and you can articulate, and you should articulate in your report, that you could have seen it with the naked eye if you're standing in a lawful place, I think you should be okay as well. Does that help? Okay. All right. Hopefully that helps. Question number 5. Question number 5. All right. So let me see. Before I continue, hold on a second. Rick, do you see the YouTube? Somebody wants to get on the Zoom. All right. All right. So question number 5. All right. Can police recover stolen property without an arrest? This question comes from an officer in California. So got my little printout here from the officer. All right. There's the background, right? A petty theft suspect was located away from the scene and identified by the victim. The victim works for 7-Eleven and does not want to press charges for theft. but also cannot provide beyond a reasonable doubt evidence that this person actually took something because there was some obstruction of an aisle. The victim also does not want a formal report. Okay. Okay, Dennis is already jumping into this. The suspect does not want to consent to search, and he has no parole or probation status to search, so we can't search him for another reason. Can we search the backpack to retrieve the property and make the victim whole, even if the suspect refuses? The officer is being very clear that I have no search incident to arrest because I'm not going to arrest him. I have no exigency. I have no parole or probation terms. I only have a detention at this time, and the subject provided his name and DOB, so we actually know who he is. Okay. All right. Now Dennis switches, right? Now you say no. All right. So what do you guys think? Yes or no? All right. So here is, I've been going back and forth on this. Okay. I've been going back and forth on this, and I reached out to some prosecutor friends of mine and another instructor for Blue to Gold to get their feedback. And I think I actually have come to terms about that. I'm going to be good with this. Okay. Ultimately, I think I'm going to be good with this. Here's the way I want you to look at it. And you tell me, no, look, and I see some may not do it. And I'm fine with that too. My thing is, you tell the cell 11 guy, hey, if you're not willing to press charges, I'm not here to get a minute. That's a civil dispute then, right? That's one way you may want to look at it. But I still think it could be done. And here's what I want. Here's why. Okay. Number one, do you need a victim? Do you need a cooperating victim to charge somebody for theft? Yes or no? Do you need a cooperating victim to charge somebody for theft? Yes or no? Okay. Absolutely. No, absolutely. We know it helps. But look at your statute. Look at your statute. I think you're not going to find in there that's going to say element number 5, victim willing to show up to court, victim willing to be a victim. Does it say that? No. What it says is the unlawful, and somebody says on YouTube, it says yes. Show me that. I've actually never seen it. Not once. I've never seen once where it's an element of the crime that you have to have a cooperating victim. I've just never seen it. I know it. I know at the same time, you guys have been told like batteries and mutual combat and so forth, right? Yes, and Brian says, yeah, not to charge it, but the prosecutor will drop it immediately if there's no victim. I'm 100% with you. You guys see, but look at the distinction here. I'm saying, do you need a victim to charge somebody with theft? Now, just listen to my argument here. Okay, hear me out. All right. Okay. So, the question for us, I think, to answer this question, the analysis for me at least, is first of all, did the 7-Eleven guy give the police officer probable cause? Okay. Okay. Did he? If he's wobbling and is like, I don't know, I guess he could have stole something, then I wouldn't do anything with this case. But if he's like, yeah, look, I didn't see him see the item, put it in his pants. But once he left, I went around to the aisle and clearly there was something missing there. And I knew that it was there before because I just stocked it and nobody else bought the item and nobody else was really in the aisle. If he starts talking like that, then I think you have a fair probability a crime has occurred. Then, all right, you stop him and you have probable cause. So you recover the evidence. Fine. You open the backpack, you recover the evidence, you give it back to 7-Eleven. Here's what I want you to do. If this was me, if you are going to do this, write a report and submit it to the prosecutor and let the prosecutor decide whether charges will be filed. And you know what's going to happen. The prosecutor is likely going to dismiss the case, right? Fine. But the question for us is, did you do anything unconstitutional? The other thing is there exigency here? Well, actually, there probably is. If you let the guy go, and sure, you have his ID, And what, you're going to write a warrant? I mean, I'm just thinking theoretically, how would you get that property back? You're going to write a warrant for it? No, right? Probably going to be long gone. So I think that there is some kind of pressing need. And also, if you hold this guy up in the middle of the sidewalk while you go chase a warrant, how long is that going to take? That's probably going to be a de facto arrest anyway. So I guess, I don't have any case law on this. You are making case law, as you said. I'm sure this has happened before, but you are making some case law. But my takeaway from this is, and it's not slam dunk either way, but if you had probable cause the person has stolen property and it's in their possession, I believe you can recover it just like you could if there was a cite and release situation. Write a report and let the DA decide on the charges, right? All right. So again, if you don't want to do it, I can understand. I will tell you that personally, if I was right, if I was in the situation and I had a non-cooperating victim, I probably would lean on the side of not doing it and basically tell the 7-Eleven guy, and I would say, hey, it sounds to me, because you don't want criminal action here, that you want to make this civil, right? Then go recover your property civilly. Here's the information. This is who he is. Go sue him, because I'm not going to get in the middle of a civil action. I'm a criminal investigator. Don't you guys agree with that overall, though? That's probably, even though constitutionally, maybe it's debatable, maybe there's a good argument for it, but don't you guys agree that we don't want to kind of, it's murky for me. I don't want to be in the middle of some property dispute. Exactly. Okay. All right, guys. Hey, question for you. So, can you seize a license plate from a vehicle on public property that has had the paint purposely scraped off around the letters and numbers? All right. So let me give you some context. This question comes from an officer in Utah. I have seen plates on vehicles recently with paint scraped off around the letters and numbers, and you can tell that they used a Dremel tool to take the paint off based on the scrape marks on the plate. So trying to make it, maybe an automatic license plate reader, it won't catch it and so forth. I don't know. In Utah, it is a third-degree felony to alter the registration of a vehicle, either the paperwork or the license plates or stickers. Is this grounds for an officer or deputy to seize the plate, and what would be the best way to handle the situation in your opinion? Thanks for your time, and have a great day. Love your YouTube videos and free webinars I've attended so far. Keep up the good work. Well, I appreciate you. Okay. What do you guys think? Are we good? Brian says the Carroll doctrine, the motor vehicle exception. Are we good? Okay. The answer is yes. We are good. Hey, Dennis, are you in Oregon? Is that why you're saying that? Aren't you? Where are you? Remind me where you are, Dennis. And okay. Oh, California? Oh, I think you're good. All right. Let's look at the. Sorry. All right. Dennis says we don't have time for that stuff. All right. I love it. So, so here's the motor vehicle exception. This is the way I teach it, right? Sometimes you'll hear, case law. Hey, all you need is probable cause. Well, let's make sure we're actually looking at some of the other factors. Okay. Do you have, under the motor vehicle exception, do you have probable cause that this vehicle contains evidence of a crime? Yes or no? The answer is going to be a resounding yes. Is the vehicle not on curtilage, right? Is the vehicle not on curtilage, right? It's basically talking about a parking lot and so forth. Yes. Does the vehicle appear mobile with little to no repair, right? Okay, that's a AAA rule, right? If the vehicle is mobile with little to no repair, that's the AAA rule. Does the vehicle need to be occupied in order to be searched under motor vehicles? Does it need to be from a traffic stop? The answer is no. Okay, that's Michigan versus Thomas. Then, if you got a warrant for the license plate, what would the judge tell you to do? The judge would give you authority to what? Remove the license plate. So therefore, this one actually is pretty easy. If the officer in Utah removed the license plate and then cited the person, wrote a citation or a warrant for their arrest, I don't know what they're going to do from that point. But, as far as recovering the evidence, the answer is yes under the motor vehicle exception, and that is pretty clear law. So if police have lawful access to the vehicle, they can seize the license plate as evidence. All right? Hope that one helped. All right, I got a question. Next question. Can you make entry into a room of a house to arrest someone who has just committed a misdemeanor assault? Let me read the background before you give me your answer. This question comes from Nebraska. You're called to a house for an assault that just occurred. The victim states that while in an argument with two other roommates, one of them threw an object at her face, causing lacerations around her eye, which are visible to the officer. The two suspects locked themselves in the room of the house and refused to come out. None of the parties involved in the incident own the house and are just some of the multiple people at the house. The house is more of a flop house. The officer gets in contact with the homeowner, who says that the suspects in the locked bedroom have been living there for about 3 months, but stopped paying rent after the first month. Though the officers never saw the two suspects go into the bedroom, they later learned that both suspects have warrants on file, with one of the suspects having a felony warrant. Do the officers have enough to force entry into the bedroom? Okay. Let's walk through this. Okay. So, first of all, let's kind of walk through this, okay? What about getting into the bedroom without the warrants? Okay, we have a crime that has occurred, right? Well, if you can make that arrest, right? I mean, it did not happen in your presence, right? But Xavier says family violence. Now, one thing is, I don't know if you have to make sure if they are if they're covered by domestic violence. I mean, sometimes mere roommates are not in some laws, but I think most laws do cover people currently cohabitating, right? So that does not need to be committed in your presence. I actually have been teaching, and I have not seen any case law that disagrees with this. I have been teaching that if you're already inside the home and you have probable cause to arrest, and they're in another bedroom, I don't think you need another reason to go into that room to arrest them. In other words, what I'm saying to you is, in my view, if the cops are already inside the home, the intrusion that the U.S. Supreme Courts and the lower courts are concerned about has already occurred. So as long as that initial intrusion into the home has been accomplished lawfully, I do not see really too much additional intrusion by simply going through a closed or locked door. The intrusion has already occurred. But Anthony, you're in common area. That's their bedroom. I hear you. Okay, and if the courts want to go that direction, then I just don't see it. The intrusion has already occurred. Okay, so by going into another room, how much more intrusion are we really talking about? The other thing, courts will also let you sweep a home for people if you have a reason to believe that somebody could be a danger to you. They don't say that, but you can't go into other people's rooms. They don't say that. They say that, no, you can go to other rooms. So, okay. Right, and then Xavier says, I think the hang-up would be if you enter the room and then search the room. Clearly, we are not talking about I love the point. We are not talking about searching anything. We're talking, maybe you're searching for a person, but we're talking about, searching for that person, but seizing them and so forth. All right, so I think you can do it. Okay, I think that family violence is a good example. Treat it like a husband and wife domestic. The husband's inside the bedroom. You're going to arrest him. Right? He can't be touched because he's safe. That doesn't work like that. Okay. Now let's talk about, and also I believe you do have agency here. The person that's displayed violence to another person, I think that even if a warrant was recommended, I think you're being unsafe by camping out there while this guy prepares to ambush you, barricade, and so forth. That's my view. Okay. And somebody said, get consent from the homeowner. No. Negative. Let's talk about that whole rent issue. The rent issue is, in my view, is irrelevant to this discussion. The fact that he has stopped paying rent 2 months ago is irrelevant. The problem is that, the reality is that suspect has a reasonable expectation of privacy in that home. He's been allowed to stay there for 3 months. He has not paid rent. Courts require eviction notice and papers and authority to get rid of him. So the fact that he is not paying rent constitutionally is irrelevant in this discussion. Also, you can't get, if the room that he's in is really, you're good. If the room that he is in has pretty much been his exclusive room, and he's pretty much, that's where he's staying, then the landlord can't give you consent to enter the room. That's basically his domicile. So that doesn't help either. All right. Finally, let's talk about that arrest warrant. If the police knew about the arrest warrant before going into the room, then that is the best way to grab him. I repeat, if police knew about the warrant before they went in, forget the whole, you can put that whole agency, lawfully present, all those stuff I've been talking to the side, because the warrant gives you the authority to enter his domicile without his consent, without agency, in order to serve the warrant. It gives you right to serve it at his domicile. Well, it's clearly this is his domicile. He lives in that house for 3 months. I don't care personally, constitutionally, what address is on that warrant. What you're going to need to do is say, okay, the address on the warrant is some other house, but he lives here now because of all these factors. Then the warrant can be served and executed at the room. Does that make sense? So that's the better way to handle the situation. So there's my feedback on it. So you can serve an arrest warrant when these 3 conditions are met. Valid arrest warrant, check. Probable cause that you're at the suspect's home, check. Reason to believe he's currently home, you clearly have this, check. Also, the hours for the search warrant don't matter because you were there for a call for service and lawful, right? So that's another thing. Sometimes if it's this is a felony warrant, so I think I'd be surprised if the felony warrant did not have nighttime service. But imagine you have a misdemeanor warrant. Sometimes those misdemeanor warrants by state law, or by just constitutionally too, but do not have nighttime service. However, if you're already in the home and it's past the nighttime, it's nighttime per your statute, right? In Nevada, it's like 7 p.m. It's pretty early. In some other states, it's 10 p.m. But if you're already in the home, that nighttime service is not an issue in my view. You're already in the home. You've already got there lawfully by another reason. All right. Hey guys, before I continue on to my next question, are you finding this information valuable? Is it helping? Okay, good. Good. All right. Question number 8. All right. You're welcome. Okay. Question number 8. This question comes from an officer in Nevada, Southern Nevada. Can police inventory a stolen vehicle in a tow yard? Briefly, I have a question pertaining to vehicle inventories. If I get a call to a tow yard to recover a stolen vehicle, do I have a right to inventory the vehicle? My understanding is we can inventory a vehicle if it's in police custody and we tow it. In this case, it is already at the tow yard and not in police custody. Can you maybe shed some light on this? I think we're going to be okay. Because the way I'm going to look at this is that, all right, I know it's you're kind of converting into your custody. You're the one taking the report. I have 2 points of view on this. One is, you're now converting it to really like a police seizure probably, because you're now holding it for the RO, right? And so forth. And you're removing it from NCIC. And in a sense, you're recovering it. So I think that even a tow policy would cover that situation. I mean, you are you could still face claims by a person saying, hey, where's my watch? Where's my computer? You stole it. And you're like, no, when I recovered it, I looked in there and I did my own tow sheet so that my interaction with that car, there was no watch in there. There was no Rolex. There was no laptop. That's my view on that. So I still think that the police, when they are interacting with that car, even at the tow yard, that they are still trying to protect themselves from false claims. Okay? Okay. Also, the other way we can slice this is with probable cause. Because the car is stolen. Is there a fair probability that there would be evidence in the car that could lead you to the culprit who stole the car? Right? Maybe they left a wallet. How many times have you seen that actually? People, people have done that. People have left their wallets and, their parole. You've seen that, right? People leave their parole or probation paperwork in cars. So it would help to know the context of this recovery. Especially if you found it in a parking lot, not necessarily abandoned, right? Presumably the person is going to come back to it. You actually may find indicia of control. Maybe you fingerprint. I don't know, but the point is I also think that you have that issue. And finally, the third one is like, all right, even at the end of the day, let's say the inventory doesn't work, which it probably would. Probable cause doesn't work, which it probably would. How about this? No standing. How about the thief has no constitutional right of privacy in that vehicle? So they can't complain on you. And if the owner wants to complain on you, well, the only way they're going to constitutionally complain on you is if you charge them with a crime. So if you do go in there and, you start exceeding the bounds of an inventory search and you find drugs, something, contraband, then they can try to argue that you shouldn't have been in the car in the first place. I have seen a case where the cops inventoried a stolen car and pulled off trim panels and found narcotics, and they charged the car owner, and that was thrown out because the police, that was not a valid inventory, and there was no probable cause to look behind the trim panels. So keep that in mind. All right? So, all right. The last question of the day. We're almost at an hour here. All right, the last question I have for you, and the question comes from an officer in Louisiana. Can a city in Louisiana make a more restrictive gun law? So I'm in Louisiana, and the local government, they call them, the county there, parishes, which is kind of cool. Not counties, they're parishes. Is trying to pass their version of some kind of gun control. On the surface, it sounds reasonable. Cannot have a loaded gun in a vehicle with a magazine that holds 20 rounds or more of ammunition. Now, can I respectfully disagree with you? That is unreasonable. I want to have 100 rounds in my gun, in my car. But that's, I'm also near the Canadian border, and I'm very, very concerned that they're going to invade. So I'm prepared. If you know me a little bit, you know that I'm a very big gun person. So I want no restrictions personally. I have a problem with this for a few reasons, but my main question is, does a local government have the authority to enforce such a law if the state allows it? Okay. Well, here's the deal. Louisiana, right? Louisiana has a pretty strict preemption law, okay? Preemption is this idea that local governments may not be more restrictive on gun laws than the state. And the reason why we do this is because we don't want a person driving through a state, let's say that having a loaded gun in the car in town X is legal, but town Y has made it a felony. Well, they're going through, Walmart is in town Y. So they go from X to Y with their loaded gun, and instantly they become a felon, right? And if you allow that, then you have what California has. All these ridiculously BS laws on guns, just at the state level, but at the local level. San Jose now wants insurance if you're a gun owner. All these BS laws makes it hard to really execute your Second Amendment rights, and that's the logic behind preemption. So, but look what it says here. This is the law. It says no governing authority of any political subdivision, parish, city, town, shall enact after July 15th, 1985, any ordinance or regulation more restrictive than state law concerning in any way the sale, purchase, possession, ownership, transfer, transportation, license, or registration of firearms, ammunition, or components of firearms or ammunition. Now, this is, I can say this and I can say, hey, it's black and white. It's black and white to me that the city cannot do this, right? That they are preempted by state law. If the state allows a loaded gun with more than 20 rounds, and there's no prohibition on that, then I do not see how a local government can do it. That's my answer to it. But things get complicated when you get into the weeds, right? All right, guys. Hey, we're at an hour. If anybody has a question for me that they would like to ask, I'm here. Just I'll turn on the mic. I won't take any questions. Just please, bear with me on this. I won't take any questions by chat. I'm going to be strict on this, and I want to encourage people to get on the mic. But hey, if you guys, before we leave, if you want to spend a few minutes asking any follow-up questions, or you want to have your own scenario, there's no dumb questions, just dumb answers. I'll try to prevent that. No one can see you. Your camera will not be turned on. You got to use a microphone, and your agency can stay private. You can be like, hey, this is John from Texas. What do you guys think? So at this point, does anybody have any questions for me? And I can just say Mike, and I'll turn on your mic. Any questions for me that I can answer? I'd love to answer some questions. All right, hold on, Brian. And I'm going to give you, I think Rick and I were talking about giving out some prizes to those who want to participate. You're welcome, Steve. All right, I can hear you, Brian.
Okay, just to make sure you can hear me.
Awesome.
Okay, Brian from Missouri. You actually answered my first question on Roadside Chat, episode number 286, which is if you're lawfully present in the house and someone conceals something that was plain view, can you then go retrieve it? And you said foregone conclusion.
Yes.
So the question beyond that is, once you go and retrieve it, and I think I know the answer, but I'm just looking for that warm and fuzzy.
Yep.
Once you open that bag to retrieve the thing that you saw, and then you see other items of evidence, you're plain view then, right? And you can see those other items.
You're right, all day long. And so here's the deal, because as long as the court agrees that you opening up, let's say that backpack, right? They come in, you come into the house lawfully, think domestic or warrant or whatever you're in the house for, maybe consent, and they hide that bag of dope, and they put that bag of dope that you can see into their backpack, and then you talk about foregone conclusion. There's no benefit of getting a warrant on that sense because the privacy has already been eliminated. And they're putting that item into a backpack. You open it up, you see something else. That's all plain view. The key, though, is never use. You wouldn't do this, but a cop should never ever use the words, "Then I search for more contraband." That
right.
Be immediately suppressed.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, now we got next on the love line is Xavier. Hold on.
Can you hear me?
Perfectly.
All right. I'm coming from Texas. I just had a question as far as with something that I see a lot working nights is you got a car full of, I'd say, 4 people are occupying the front 2 and back 2 seats. You have a backpack. You have PC off of, let's say, odor marijuana or whatever, or something along those lines. You get in the car somehow, and you have this backpack that nobody wants to claim. At what point do you believe, if the vehicle's registered to him or his parents or something of that nature? At what point do you have enough if you find contraband in that backpack? Is it probable cause to arrest, or is it considered found property at that point if nobody wants to claim it.
All right, let's go through this. Number one is there's something in the law called presumptions, right? There's a lot of presumptions out there. In fact, I thought about making a book about it. It wouldn't be super thick, but there's just a lot of presumptions out there. And one okay, let me give you a great example of a presumption that I think a lot of my friends on here would understand is Kansas versus Glover is a U.S. Supreme Court case that said, and it said that if you run a license plate and the RO is coming back to has a warrant or revoked license, and you don't see anything indicating that it's not the RO is not driving, right? Maybe it's at night, you really can't see inside the cab, and you're allowed to presume that the driver of that vehicle is the RO. That's a presumption. Do you know for sure? No, but it just makes it sense that that's logically who's probably driving the car, right? Let's go to the situation. You are allowed to presume that the driver of a vehicle knows the contents of the vehicle. It's a presumption. Now, this presumption can be what's called rebutted, right? Like, so for example, a person is driving I'm working through your question, by the way, but I want to give a foundation here. A person driving a rental car, and the dog is running around the car, and drugs are found behind a plastic panel, and the driver's like, "Look, I'm a businessman. I have gainful employment. I don't do drugs. There's nothing in my bags. That wasn't left by me. That must have been somebody else left behind." We would want to make a case. Yeah, there's a presumption that he or she knew about the item, but obviously it can be rebutted and so forth. Now let's turn to the details at hand. This does come under constructive possession, but you are going to have to articulate something more with these backpack issues. The presumption is only going to get you so far. You probably have a lawful arrest if you want to go down that path. You probably have a lawful arrest, but I'm telling you, like, if this is all you have is some backpack in the back seat, there's other occupants, and is this presumption? It's really, the case is dead on arrival. So what I teach with these constructive possession cases is to look for other facts or circumstances that lead you to believe that this particular occupant, whether it's the driver, passenger, and so forth, are the persons who possess it. And what I teach is an acronym called NERDS. It's the best acronym I can come up with, right? But NERD stands for nervousness. Is the driver abnormally nervous? Right? If he or she did not know that there was drugs or contraband in that backpack, why would they be nervous? I wouldn't be nervous, right? And then E stands for evasiveness, taking a long time to pull over, maybe trying to beg you, please, can I just have a warning? Legally combative, maybe they run. All that stuff indicates guilty mind. The R stands for reactions. Reactions not consistent with innocence. And you say something like, "Hey, driver, is there any, like, let's say you find it, and then he or she doesn't know you found it. Then you go to the driver and you say, "Hey, let me ask you something. Is there anything illegal in that car?" And the driver says, "Well, there was somebody in the car earlier." Right? That's, if I asked you if you had anything illegal in your car, you would be like, "No, there's absolutely nothing illegal in my car," because you wouldn't, even if you had other people in your car, because you don't hang out with dopers, right? And then D stands for deception. Is the driver lying to you? Is he saying that he doesn't really know these people? Does he not know their last names? Are they saying something different about travel plans? And then S is specifics about him or the environment. In other words, is he on paper for drugs? Has he been arrested for narcotics? Does he have a drug history? Does he appear to be a drug user? The environment, did they just come from a drug house previously, and so forth? In other words, I hope this is helping, by the way, but in other words, when I get these cases, I just ask the cop, "Hey, look, if all you have is just a backpack that's being abandoned by everybody, and you're like, oh, I'm just going to arrest everybody." Well, you can probably do a little more shoe leather, and you can probably see things that are indicative that this guy actually is guilty. And I say NERDS is a good place to start. Now, with that said, that's a long answer to a short question. But with that said, does that help?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Anything else to follow up on, or are we good?
No, we're good. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, brother. Okay. And up next, Mark. Hold on. Hold on, Mark. All right, Mark.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Great. Your Louisiana issue just brought mine to a question I often get. So I have a neighbor who has a permit to carry in the state of Indiana, and he's traveling to Utah. Is there a good site to go to find out which states are going to have reciprocity in terms of recognizing that permit to carry? Or does the gun just stay in the trunk the whole way? Or how can they determine which states they're good to go in?
Oh man, there is a good site out there, and it's the National Concealed Carry Association. Is that what national? Anyway, hold on one second. I'm gonna ask you a question also about the transporting issue.
Okay.
Man, there is a now. I like you're law enforcement, right? I mean,
Yes.
I obviously that's why you're here. But I don't really look into these sites too much anymore because I have the HR 218 Leosa like you have, so I just carry wherever I want. But for he's a civilian, so he has restrictions. But hold on one second. There is this. It might just be here. Does U.S. is this what it is? Yes. Hold on. I'm just okay. Yeah, I'm gonna put it. Here it is, right here. Love it. All right.
Okay.
So I'm gonna put this in the. Okay, I'm gonna put this in the chat. I think this is the website. There's a few websites out there, but this one. So like Utah, for example. Let's see. He has Indiana. Yeah, Indiana's good. No, back up. Oh yeah. Indiana's good. So he could carry. He could conceal in Utah. Okay. Eric, and then Rick, do you see what's going? You see, the site is down. We crushed it with all this traffic. All right. So back up. Okay. So that website helps your friend know where he or she can conceal. The problem is the transportation issue. That concealed carry, like, so for example, if your friend drives to Illinois and that gun is not locked, secured, in the trunk, ammunition separate, all that kind of BS that they got there, your friend can be in a lot of trouble. The fact that he's going across interstate does not save him from that. There is a federal law about transporting firearms. Illinois cannot restrict your neighbor, from carrying the gun and transporting the gun. What they can restrict him is how he carries the gun. So just let your friend know that he does have to comply with those restrictions. And on the way to Illinois, the only one I'm seeing that's going to be a problem on the way to Utah is Illinois. But depends on how he rolls. All right. Does that answer your question?
It does. If I could follow up, as a current police officer and as a retired federal agent, does that give me any greater leeway personally to make those travels through, say, a state of Illinois?
Oh, you're golden. Let me tell you what the rules are for you. First of all, let me address it two different answers. Okay, let's imagine that there's feds on here and so forth. Let's imagine that you are retired. The rules for retirees are a little different than the active duty guys. The rules for retirees like me is that you have to qual every year. Okay, and every state has their rules. Like in Washington State, it's a 25 round course from 3 yards to 20 or to 20 yards, whatever it is. And so I do that. And you just carry the claw with you, and you have to have credentials. And that's one thing that some feds have run into a problem with. Some federal agencies don't want to give their retirees the actual retired ID. So, but you have to have that retired ID and you have to have that qual together at the same time. And then if you do, you get to carry in every single state, including DC, concealed. Now, you still can't carry in government buildings that they say no, but it pretty much preempts restrictive state law. And there's not a lot of case law in this area, but like, for example, if some states say you can't carry in church, but you have your Leosa, you have your retired creds, you probably can carry in church because the federal law doesn't prohibit you from carrying in a church. Stuff like that. Does that make sense? Okay. Yes. Now let's talk about you. you and anybody on here who's active duty, you don't have any, you have no qual requirements. If you work, I know you probably don't, but if some department doesn't do quals every year, or they're late on their qual, and it's been over 12 months, there is no qual. All you need is just a badge. So if you have you have your badge, you have your ID, that's what you need to carry in other states. The one thing also is that you have to, you can't be under the influence of alcohol. And I think that makes sense. There is a debate about whether that means one sip of beer and somehow they can register that, or that's like a point of weight, like really like a real, under influence that's impeding your faculties. But obviously as an attorney, I'm going to recommend that no cop drinks alcohol when they're carrying a gun. That's just the safest bet. God forbid they have to use it, and we have that issue coming up in their defense. But that is your answer for retirees and active duty. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, and then by the way, too, just so you know, you going through towns, like you going through Illinois, obviously you can concealed carry on your person in your car rolling around Chicago. So again, you don't have those issues that your friend's going to have and your neighbor. Okay, good. Good. All right, so we got that. And up next, I think we had somebody else that wanted to get on the mic. Jennifer, are you next? Jennifer, you still want to get on the mic? Okay, I'm going to do Jennifer next, and then Dennis, you're next. Jennifer. Okay, you should see it on your end, Jennifer. If it's not working. Okay. Jennifer, it doesn't sound like it's working. Why don't you give me a call and put you on speaker? You want to give me a call real quick? And I'll put you on speaker? Or no? Okay. Yeah, that's a good backup plan. I'm going to turn off your talking ability on your computer or phone, whatever. And then Dennis, you're up next. Hold up. Oh, hold on. Sorry. I think are you accepting those too, Jennifer? I had it on Do Not Disturb for the webinar, sorry. You there? Hold on. Jennifer, do me a favor, call back one more time. I'm sorry. Something must have. Again, I had you on, I had on Do Not Disturb, sorry. There we go. You there? Yeah. Okay. Yep, hold on 1 second. All right. Okay, go ahead.
All right. The question is, a vehicle parked in the driveway and covered is obviously off limits. But what about a vehicle that's in a shared apartment complex without assigned spaces and covered? What extent of right to privacy does that vehicle owner have?
Full. So now what are you looking to do though? You're looking to just like lift up the tarp and look at the plate? Or
plate or VIN, or if other neighbors are complaining, calling in nuisances about the vehicle.
okay, so here's the deal. You can't really do much on that car because again, it goes back to the civil issues. Just make sure everybody's on the same page here. what she's asking is, hey, if the vehicle is not on curtilage and, can we, it has a tarp over it. Can we lift up the tarp and run the VIN? Maybe run the registration. And the answer is that would be a search under the Fourth Amendment. And in order to do a search, you need crew, you need consent, which you don't have. You need a recognized exception, which here would be probable cause. You need some probable cause that vehicle is violating the law, or you need a warrant, which you couldn't get a warrant because you have no probable cause. The fact that the vehicle, is violating or is a nuisance is a civil issue, and I just don't see, unless you have some law, right? I mean, if you have some law that says this vehicle in a private parking lot is then you can gather evidence like the VIN to write a citation or to tow it. If you think the vehicle has been abandoned and you have objective reasons to believe that, then you probably have no constitutional issue. But the problem is when people put tarps over cars or car covers, it actually does the opposite for abandonment. It shows that they want to take care of it. They want to protect it. So you're going to need something more. You can't touch that vehicle. And then Dennis says, go ahead.
If it's parked on the side of a public roadway, same rules still apply, or then we give a little bit more leeway? You
get a lot more leeway. First of all, you're 702, so is that Nevada?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, so you're a cop in Nevada, so you get a lot more leeway. Number one is vehicles in Nevada have to be registered. So so that's the first thing, right? The second thing is, in most states, right, probably all states, but in Nevada, you cannot obscure a license plate on a public road, right? How else do you figure out that the car is registered, right? So when you have a vehicle that's on a public road or parked, whatever, and it's required to be registered and also required to have plates displayed, and they have a tarp over it, then you can lift up that tarp, run the plate, run the VIN. You go from there. You don't have to write a citation, but you can gather that evidence. But it's a totally different game. When it comes to private parking lots and people complaining, you're going to have to be like, hey, look, I am not the parking police. And Dennis says, call code enforcement. He's trying to get you in trouble. Code enforcement will get in trouble too. Unless you have a law, right? Sometimes East Coast states have laws that they can enforce on private property, but I'm not the parking police. I can't do anything with that car. If you happen to get a VIN or you happen to get a plate, I'll take it and I can do something with it, but I can't tell you what to do either. So don't convert those neighbors into your agent to do something that you couldn't do. But if they happen to get the VIN, then you want to run it, you do your thing.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, my friend. All right. Bye. Okay, Dennis, I'm gonna tell you, it's one last question, and then I'm gonna go because the missus has a list of honeydews, and apparently I was supposed to be done already. So Dennis, you ready to go? Okay.
Hey, Anthony.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on, Dennis.
100%.
Hold on.
Connected to Anthony's Mac Mini.
My speaker was off. Okay, say something.
Connected to Bluetooth old iPad.
Sorry. Go ahead again.
Okay, can you hear me?
Dennis, are you talking?
Yeah, I'm trying to. Can you hear me?
Yeah, hold on. I hear you. I see the mic. Hey, does anybody else hear Dennis? Oh, he's talking? All right, hold on, Rick. Hold on. I see the problem. All right, Dennis, go again.
All right. Good now?
I'm having a problem. Hold on. I'm having a problem on my end. Hold on. Okay, now try.
Okay, how about now?
Sorry about that. Anyway, go on.
Okay. So I have an issue in my city with some of my command staff regarding the use of pole cameras. I know there's not real specific case law with respect to Carpenter, maybe going back to Jones, but what's a reasonable amount of time that you think I could put one up and not have to be slandered by the defense? What's your idea on that, Anthony?
Now, Dennis, I want you to know that I'm gonna give you a couple of my feedbacks, but I want you to know that I have to just take a position here, and most case law on poll cams right now, the vast majority of poll cam cameras cases are saying that you can put them up for a year and a half type stuff. There was a case out there for 18 months. Now, I do not take that position, okay? I do not believe that targeted 24/7 recording of a person's curtilage for an extended period of time is a non-issue, right? So that's just my view. I believe that if I had I think I'm a reasonable person. I like crime control. And I'm just going to kind of give you my background. I like crime control. I want police to have the tools necessary to fight crime in my neighborhood, but also I like freedom. And so I think about myself, that I'm pro law enforcement, but I'm also pro freedom. And I'm like, imagine that I found out that the government had a camera pointed towards my house, just me, pretty much, and saw everything I'm doing in my yard and my curtilage for a year and a half. Would that offend my sensibilities? And absolutely, I would feel really invaded, you know? So just keep this in mind. I am not talking about general surveillance. I'm not talking about neighborhood watch cameras. I'm talking about targeted, recorded cameras pointed towards a person's curtilage for long periods of time. Now, I am a month guy. I'm going to tell you, it's arbitrary to a degree. I'm being kind of cautious here. I think maybe we get a little bit more time. If I was on the Supreme Court, this is what I would probably say. I'm probably a month guy. I think that simply putting up a targeted recording camera on curtilage is not in and of itself an instant violation, because that's not reasonable either. But I'm a month. I would ask the cop, you know, if I was your prosecutor, hey, what happened in this month? Did you find something incriminating? If the cop is like, no, it's all quiet on Main Street, and I'd be like, all right, let's find another. I personally would encourage the officer to find another investigative technique to pull the camera down. But so there's the other issue too that comes up is if that camera obviously is seeing things that cannot be seen from a lawful vantage point. Think backyard, and there is no other, you know, hill, alleyway, and so forth. That to me is even worse, right?
Right.
So, but I just, again, if somebody wants to challenge me and says, but Anthony, look, I don't agree with you because case law is not in your favor, they would be right. But the U.S. Supreme Court has never addressed this issue yet. So I'm going to predict where I think it's going.
Okay, good enough. Thanks, Anthony.
Welcome, my friend. All right. As always, guys, it's been a pleasure. I hope everybody got something out of this. You know, this is an hour and a half. I think that's long enough for a Saturday. I will ask you one thing, though. Will you do me a favor before you leave? Will you tell me when you would rather have these webinars? Because these are not on the Wednesday night webinars, we have hundreds of people. Would you guys, I'll just ask you this, would you prefer to have this during the week? Yes or no? Well, you're here on Saturday. Maybe it's good enough for you, but during the week, yeah. Okay. And keep it on Saturday? Okay. Well, maybe I'll do a Survey Monkey or something. But guys, thank you so much. I appreciate you, all your hard work out there. Please help me spread the word about these webinars. And that's all I got for you. Okay, I'm going to stop the live stream on YouTube. Thanks, YouTube, for